Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how fast the world is losing its mind these days? One clip goes viral, everyone is outraged. One rumor spread, suddenly everyone is afraid. One opinion trends, suddenly everyone picks a side. And the weird part, most of us weren't even there. We didn't see it happens. We just absorbed the emotion. Here's the uncomfortable thought. What if we are not just watching mass hysteria? What if we are participating in it? Because right now in your pocket is the most powerful emotion spreading machine humanity has ever built. It doesn't care what's true, it cares what keeps you hooked. If you ever felt overwhelmed, anxious or angry online for no clear reason, that's not being dramatic. That's you being human in a system designed to amplify emotions. So today I want to explore a question that sounds extreme but might explain everything about modern life. Are we living in a mass hysteria era? And if yes, who's pulling the strings? Stay with me. Because once you see the patterns, you can't unsee it. You know the phrase mass hysteria sounds dramatic, like something out of horror movie. Crowd screaming, people running, chaos everywhere. But real mass hysteria is usually much quieter than that. It's not people panicking in the streets, sometimes it's millions of people panicking behind screens. So let's now slow down and get clear on what this actually means. Mass hysteria is when a large group of people start sharing the same intense emotion, fear, anger, excitement, without solid evidence to justify it. The emotion spreads faster than fact, and once it spreads, individual thinking takes a back seat. Think of it like this. If one person feels anxious, that's normal. If a crowd feels anxious, that's totally understandable. But when anxiety spreads simply because others are anxious, that's hysteria. It's emotional contagion. Just like yawning. When you see someone yawn, except instead of yawning, it's fear or outrage or blind certainty. Your brain is wired for this. Humans evolved to read the emotions of the group. If everyone around you looks scared, your survival instinct said, be scared too, ask questions later. That instinct kept us alive in the wild. But in a digital world, it creates a different problem. Because now the group isn't just people around you. It's millions of strangers on your feed. Thousands of comments saying this is terrifying. Hundreds of posts saying this is the truth. Viral clips with dramatic music and bold headlines. And your brain quietly thinks, if everyone feels this strongly, it must be real. That's the core mass hysteria. No stupidity, no weakness. Just a very old survival mechanism operating in a very new environment. And this is where the line gets important. Normal concern is when you feel something after understanding the situation. Mass hysteria is when you feel something before understanding it, and the understanding never catches up. So the real question isn't, are people overreacting? The real question is, how often are we reacting before we even know what's happening? And once you see this, the rest of this video start to make a little more sense. Now before we blame internet for everything, here's something important. Mass hysteria didn't start with social media. We've been doing this for centuries. Long before algorithms, long before smartphones, long before trendings. Let me take you back for a moment. In 1692, a small town called Salem, few young girls claimed they were hunted by witches. There was no evidence, no proof, just fear. But fear spread. Neighbors started suspecting neighbors. Soon an entire town convinced invisible forces were attacking them. People were imprisoned, some were executed, all because a community emotionally synchronized around a shared terror. No internet, no viral videos, just human mind mirroring each other. Then jump forward to 1938. A radio broadcast called War of the World aired in the United States. It was a fictional, a drama, a story about an alien invasion. But many listeners tuned in late and missed the details. They heard urgent voices, breaking news, report of cities under attack, and suddenly panic. People called police stations, some packed their bags, some prayed, some ran into the streets. A story triggered a real world fear at national scale. Again, no social media, just one powerful communication channel reaching millions at once. And throughout history, this repeats. War propaganda convincing population that the enemy is monstrous. Financial bubbles where everyone believes prices will rise forever. Moral panics where entire groups are labeled dangerous overnight. Different eras, different technologies, same psychological pattern. Humans don't just share information, we share emotions. And when a communication system becomes powerful enough, those emotions synchronize at scale. We didn't invent mass hysteria in the digital age. We just built the first system capable of triggering it instantly, globally, continuously. And that brings us to the real shift. Because if hysteria was possible with town gossips and with the radio, imagine what happens when everyone carries a broadcasting station in their pocket. And that's where the story gets interesting. So we see a village rumor, a radio broadcast, a nationwide panic. Same human psychology, different delivery systems. What happens when the delivery system becomes permanent? Because in the past, hysteria had limits. A town eventually calmed down, a radio broadcast ended, a newspaper got replaced by the next day edition. There were pauses, silence, time to think. But today, signal never stops. The screen in your hand doesn't turn off, the feed doesn't sleep, the comments never ends. The next headline is already waiting. We took an ancient emotional reflex and plugged it into a machine designed for infinite amplification. And suddenly, hysteria isn't an event anymore. It's a background condition. We didn't create a fear, we just created a system. Fear travels at the speed of light, with no friction, no pause, no filters. We didn't invent hysteria, we industrialized it. And now we need to understand how the machine actually works. Let's talk about the machine. Because social media doesn't just show you information, it shows you what keeps you emotionally engaged. That's the quiet secret behind every feed. These platforms are built around one goal: keep you here as long as possible. And the easiest way to do that is emotion. Not calm, not neutral, not balanced. Emotion that spikes, emotion that grabs, emotion that demands a reaction. Here's a simple experiment. Post a thoughtful, calm opinion online. No drama, no extremes. It gets a few likes, maybe a polite comment, and then it disappears. Now post something furious or shocking or terrifying. Suddenly notifications, shares, arguments, viral monuments. The system isn't asking, is this true? Will this make people feel something strongly enough to stay? That's how algorithm learns. If anger keeps you scrolling, it shows you more anger. If fear keeps you watching, it shows you more fear. If outrage keeps you commenting, it feeds you outrage. Over time, your feed becomes a personalized emotional amplifier. Not a mirror of reality, but a mirror of your most reactive self. And this isn't speculation. Researchers studying online behavior have found that high arousal emotions, especially anger and fear, spread faster than calm or factual content. Not because people are evil, but because emotional content travels better through human networks. So the machine noticed this and optimized it automatically. No grand conspiracy, just maths. And when billions of people plug into the same system, the emotional volume of society gets turned up. Not by accident, by design. And once you see that, you realize social media didn't create hysteria. It just gave it a turbo engine. Now here's the uncomfortable part. The machine works because it's plugged directly into your biology. That isn't a weaker willpower. This is about how the human brain is built. Every time you open an app, your brain expects a reward, a message, a like, a new post, a surprise. When it gets one, dopamine releases a tiny chemical, yes, a little spark that says, do that again. So you refresh, you scroll, you check. Not because you're addicted to the phone, but because your brain learned that phone predicts reward. And here's where the emotion enters. Fear and anger are high energy states. They wake up your attention system. They feel urgent. So when your feed shows something outrageous, your brain lights up. This matter, react now, share this. And before the rational part of your mind even wakes up, your emotional brain has already decided. Another mechanism kicks in too. Humans are social creatures. We care about belonging, about being on the right side of the group. So when you see thousands of people agreeing on something, your brain quietly asks, if I disagree, do I get excluded? That's how group identity forms online, not through slow reasoning, but through emotional alignment. You start adopting the emotional tone of your community. Their fear becomes your fear. Their enemies becomes your enemy. Their certainty becomes your certainty. And the strangest part, it feels like independent thinking, but often it's synchronized emotion wearing the mask of opinion. This is why mass hysteria doesn't feel like hysteria from the inside. It feels like clarity. And once your brain locks into the emotional loop, the machine simply keeps feeding it effortlessly, silently, automatically. And that's the moment where a personal reaction turns into a collective wave. Here's the paradox of our time. We have more information than any generation in history. News updates every minute, expert opinion everywhere, endless explainers, infinite content. And yet, most of us feel like barely keeping up. So we adapt, we skimp, we scroll, we watch it in 30 seconds. We read headlines, not articles. We collect impressions, not understanding. And slowly something strange happens. We start feeling informed without actually being informed. A bold headline becomes a fact. A viral clip becomes the full story. A comment section becomes a public opinion. The brain loves the shortcuts. It saves energy whenever it can. So instead of asking what is actually happening, it asks what does this look like in the first glance. And the system rewards that. Shorter content, stronger emotions, simpler narratives, clear villains, clear heroes, no complexity, no nuances, no slow thinking, just instant certainty. This creates echo chambers, feeds where you keep seeing versions of what you already believe, not because someone forced it to you, not because the algorithm learned what kept you engaged. So your world tightens, alternative perspective feels strange, opposing opinion feels hostile, and without realizing it, you're no longer exploring reality. You're exploring a personalized simulation of reality. One that feels complete even when it's missing half the picture. And this is where the illusion becomes dangerous. Because when people believe they are fully informed, they stop questioning. And when questioning stops, emotion takes over completely. That's when mass hysteria doesn't just spread, it stabilize. By now you can probably see the shape of it. This isn't random chaos, it's a loop, a self-feeding system. Here's how it works. Emotional content spread faster than the calm content. The algorithm promotes emotional content. The emotional content keeps you engaged. You stay on the platform longer. The longer you stay, the more ads you see, the more data you generate, the more profit the platform makes. So the platform has a clear incentive. Show you whatever keep you emotionally activated. And what keeps humans activated most reliably? Fear, anger, tribal pride, moral outrage. Not because the platform hates you, but because this combination keeps the system alive. Emotion fuels attention, attention fuels profit, profit fuels optimization. Round and round. And the genius or the danger of the system is that no one needs to manually control it. No editor deciding what you should believe. No central planner pushing a narrative, just algorithm constantly adjusting to your reactions. If millions of people start reacting strongly to a certain type of content, the system amplifies it. If millions stop reacting, it disappears, which means something strange happens. Hysteria became profitable, calm become invisible, balance become boring, outrage become the default language. And the more society react emotionally, the more the platform learns to deliver exactly that. It's a mirror that doesn't just reflect you, it reshapes you. And once this loop locks in, mass hysteria is no longer an accident. It's an enforcement feature of the system. So what happens when a society lives inside a loop for years? Slowly the atmosphere changes. People don't just disagree anymore, they divide. Every issue becomes a battle, every opinion becomes a side, every conversation feels like a debate you're trying to win. Not because people are worse, but because emotional amplification rewards extreme positions. The middle becomes invisible, nuances become suspicious, listening feels like weakness, trust start to erode too. You stop trusting intuitions, then experts, then journalists, then eventually each other. Because when every feed shows a different versions of reality, no shared reality remains. And when there's no shared reality, there's no shared ground to stand on. Another quiet consequences, constant anxiety. When your brain is exposed to a steady diet of crisis, it starts to live in a crisis mode. Even when your life is fine, your nervous system feels like something is wrong. Always urgent, always threatening, always about to collapse. Then there's attention. We used to read long articles, sit through long conversations, follow slow stories. Now information arrives in bursts. 15-second emotional spikes. The brain adapts. Deep focus weakens. Patience shrinks. Everything must be immediate or it's skipped. And finally, empathy changes. When you only see people as an avatar with opinions, it became easier to attack them, dismiss them, dehumanize them. Not intentionally, but gradually, pixel by pixel. Now this happens overnight. It's slow, subtle, incremental. But after enough time, you wake up in a world where everyone is reacting, but few are reflecting. And that's when a society becomes a highly efficient at spreading hysteria and very bad at calming it. So let's come back to the question we started with. Are we actually living in a mass hysteria era, or does this feels that way because the world is louder now? After everything we've seen, the history, the psychology, the algorithm, the feedback loop, a pattern emerges. Human beings have always been capable of mass hysteria. That's not new. What's new is the speed. In the past, hysteria took time to spread. Word of mouth, newspaper, radio, television. There was delays, frictions, moment of breeds. Now, a rumor can cross the planet in minutes. An emotional reaction can reach millions before breakfast. A narrative can solidify before anyone verifies it. So no, we're not in a constant state of hysteria. People still think, question, incite, care. But we are in something different. A world where hysteria is always one spark away, always preloaded, always ready to ignite. Like dry forest under the hot wind, not burning all the time, but always dangerously flammable. And the most important insight is this: mass hysteria today isn't just crowd losing control, it's networks amplifying emotion faster than wisdom can catch up. Which means the real challenge of our era isn't information, it's emotional regulation at scale. And once you recognize that, you stop asking, why is everyone is going crazy? And start asking more useful questions. What kind of system are we all plugged into? Because the answer to that decides what happens next. So if this is the world we are living in, if we surrounded by emotional amplification systems, if hysteria is always one spark away, what do we do? Because we can't unplug from society, we can't live in a cave, we can't pretend the internet doesn't exist, but we can change how we move inside. The first skill is slow down your reaction. When something shocking appears on your feed, don't ask how do I respond. Ask, do I even understand this yet? A few seconds of pause sound small, but it's the difference between being part of a wave and watching the wave from the shore. The second skill is verification, not extreme fact checking, not obsessive skepticism, just simple habit. Before sharing, search one additional source. The third skill is feed hygiene. Your feed is not neutral, it's a garden. Whatever emotional seed you water will grow. If your feed is constant outrage, your mind become constant outrage. So unfollow, mute, curate. Not to hide from reality, but to stop living inside emotional noise. The fourth skill is emotional awareness. Notice when your body reacts to content. Tight chest, fast heartbeat, sudden anger. That's your signal. Not this is truth, but this is triggering my survival system. And the moment you notice it, you are already regaining control. None of these are grand solutions. They are small levers. But when millions of individuals pull small levers, the system slowly loses fuel. Because hysteria only spread when people react faster than they reflect. So the real superpower in this digital age is not being the loudest voice. It's being the calmest mind in the room. So here we are, a species that evolved to read emotions of a small tribe, now plugged into the emotion of billions. A mind designed for slow physical danger, now navigating inside digital storms. We built machines to connect us, but those machines learned how to steer us. Not through force, not through orders, not through attention. Because in the modern world, whoever controls attention shapes reality. If your emotion can be amplified, redirected, synchronized, then how many of your reaction online are truly yours? And how many were simply the system thinking through you? Sit with that for a moment, because the future won't be decided by technology. It will be decided who learns to master their own mind inside it.